Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for holding in for a few minutes there. Welcome. I'm really excited for this workshop. The National Day of Civic Hacking is coming up on August 11th and wanted to have an opportunity for everyone to be able to share strategies, talk about best practices or suggested practices, what they've done in the past, and then how ideas may be able to be shared so that folks can have a really successful day. So this workshop is going to be a little bit different than workshops in the past, just because we have a few kind of housekeeping things to talk about, just to make sure that you know what's coming in the next few weeks and make sure that you're aware of all the resources that will be coming out from CFA's side, just so that we can help you prepare as best as possible. So the first thing that I want to do is let you know that there is a website, which I'm going to screen share right now so that everybody can see how to register your events. Okay, perfect. So if you go to National Day of CivicHacking.org, there's a chat. 1 second on the chat. So if you go to nationaldayofcivichacking.org, you'll get redirected to this page. And if you click on register your event, then it will lead you to a form where you can register your event for National Day of Civic Hacking. So this is a great way to put in all of your information, and your event will be listed on the National Day of Civic Hacking website. This website is kind of in a more basic form right now, and we're going to be reworking it and retooling it so it'll have a lot of great information. Are there any questions about that as we get started? No? Okay, perfect. The next thing then that I want to talk about is the fact that we have a theme chosen out for this year. So it's called Government by the People. It's very generic, and the goal of this theme was essentially to make sure that brigades that have more specific themes in their localities can still keep those themes while also have a general theme for this year's National Day. So Government by the People is the theme for this year. It'll be up on the website. If you have any questions about that, let us know. Moving on, there will be a National Day committee, and this committee is really going to be focused on making sure that we have information about different events that are going on and really trying to drum up as much support as possible. Christopher, did you want to talk about the committee a little bit more and how you can sign up to get involved?
Yes, if you're interested in helping with getting the word out, helping first-time event hosts, getting feedback on, giving feedback on things like swag and our messaging, you can either hit me up on Slack or email me at Christopher@codeforamerica.org.
Great. If you're able to, is everyone able to turn their video on, at least for the beginning? There were some comments about it's a little bit quiet. I feel like everyone's hiding behind their video. Yay, faces. Hi. Hey. Okay, awesome. Thanks. Perfect. So next, I would like to introduce you to Javita Rastafari, who is the new Senior Program Marketing Manager here at Code for America. So she's right here in one of your screens. Yay. And so Javita is going to be doing a lot of work with us and the committee to be able to make sure that we have a great toolkit for National Day, as well as just really standardizing some of our processes so that we can have some consistency and great brand marketing for this day this year and then in the future. And so we will be introducing a toolkit on the National Day of Civic Hacking.org website. Right now, there are currently some resources, but we're going to be beefing it up a bit, so make sure to stay tuned for that. And while we're on the marketing side of things, some things to think about are designating a content lead for National Day. So it's great to have posts and maybe Medium articles about what your brigade is planning to do, and then after the event, talking about what happened during your hackathons. And so to be able to have some online content is really helpful, and have somebody that's in charge of that is a really great way to kind of divvy up responsibilities and make sure that there is a footprint of what happened from your event. So that's just something to think about, having a content lead. If you have any questions, the marketing team here, Code for America, is definitely here to help. And we also want to make sure that folks are able to get into local press as well. National Day is obviously a big event, and a lot of the work that's happening is so key to local communities and the communities that your brigades are in. So being able to generate some press about that is something that we want brigades to be able to do if they'd like to. So make sure to get in touch with us if you have any publications that you might want to be reaching out to, and see if you can generate some more coverage of your events. Perfect. So moving on, one of the things that we wanted to kind of focus on this year with National Day is being able to make connections with local government. Some of the presenters today will be talking about ways that they may or may not have partnered with local government in their past National Days. So make sure to look out for tips or ideas about that. And then just wanted to give you a heads up that in the following years, we're hoping to make the weekend of National Day a little bit more consistent. And so I know a lot of brigades might have National Day events that aren't on the actual day. So this year is August 11th, last year was September 23rd. And so totally okay, not necessarily to have events on the day this year, but we would like to kind of start having some consistency with the day that your events are held on, so we can really generate a lot of buzz on the actual day. So that's something to keep in mind for future years to come. We'll be making sure to release the day of National Day fairly early on, so that you can plan really well. And then we're going to try to keep that same cadence for the following years. So trying to actually hold your events on that day will be really great to actually maximize the impact of that particular day itself. And then lastly, Code for America staff is hoping to travel to some sites this year, which is really exciting. And it's really an opportunity for Code for America staff to be able to see what you all do. So we haven't necessarily nailed down exactly where staff will be going yet. So if you'd like staff to come to your city, not necessarily guaranteed, but we'd love to hear from you to see if maybe we can get some folks to come visit you and see what you're doing on National Day. Are there any questions so far? Okay, perfect. So I'd like to let you know a little bit about who our presenters are today. Then I'd like to do a really quick round robin so everyone can introduce themselves. And then we'll go ahead and get started. So today, Noel Hidalgo from BetaNYC will be presenting. We also have Jason Hibbets from Open Raleigh presenting, and Laura Beidiger is going to say some words on their event and talk about what they do in Durham. So with that, and with that, we'll go ahead and start saying hi. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, what brigade you're from or what city you're in, and then how about we say what our favorite government service is, bring back a little bit of Erie since she just left. Okay. Let's start with Erin Denton.
Hi, oh wait, am I still here? Okay, my name is Erin. I am a captain at Code for Orlando in sunny Florida. And my favorite government service is one that I haven't had the chance to utilize yet, but I am super excited about utilizing it. And that's that the city of Orlando has a pottery studio where you can go in and make pottery.
That's awesome. Cool, thanks. Janet, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Janet Michaelis. I'm with Code for Dayton, and I like the postal service. It still seems magical to me that that stuff can move around and get to your house.
Awesome, thanks, Janet. Mohit, you're up next.
Hey, I'm Mohit, and I'm a captain at OpenSTL, St. Louis. And one of our services is the your courts STL thing. I really like that. We didn't have one before, then now we have one, so it's really nice.
Cool, thanks. Christina.
Hi, I'm Christina. I'm part of Code for Orlando in the storytelling role and content strategy. Let's see, my favorite government service, I would have to say probably the library system, especially the one in Orlando. We have a makerspace that pretty much is a co-working space for tech. Yep.
Cool, thanks. Jesse, you're up next.
Sure, there we go. Hi, my name is Jesse. I'm one of the organizers for Code for San Francisco. I love all the ones that have been said so far, but I'll add parks. Favorite city series.
Awesome, thank you. Javita, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Javita, and I would say that my favorite government service is also libraries. I feel like that's where a lot of magic happens early on. So, yeah.
Yay for libraries. All right, Shawn, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Shawn in South Bend, Indiana, and I help out with the Our Code Brigade, which is Hack Michiana here. My favorite local government project is we have a city owned Whitewater Rapids park here in town, which is crazy.
That sounds fun. Laura, you're up next.
Hi, my name's Laura. I work with local government, so my thoughts were trash, but I will say someone can still steal that. Would probably be like water management and sanitation. I don't think I'm a big fan of outhouses, so I'll go with cool on the government services.
Cool, thanks, Laura. Nina, I have you up next.
Hi, my name is Nina. I'm one of the co-captains of Hack for LA. I will have to say libraries again. I spent much of my childhood in my local county library.
Cool, thanks, Nina. Jim, you're up next.
Yeah, Jim March here, Code for Asheville. Oh, no.
We missed after Code for Asheville, Jim.
Oh dear. All right, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? My favorite government service is Parks and Rec.
Perfect, thanks. Dom, you're up next. Oh, you're on mute.
Oh shoot, Dom. I used to brigade with Oakland, and I just moved to SF. So Jesse, I might join you. Sewage, for sure. I'm interested in resilient cities and disaster preparedness.
Cool, thank you. Hey Hugh, you're up next.
Hi everyone, I'm Hugh Harker. Can you hear me? Okay, cool. I'm Hugh Harker with Code for PDX here in Portland, Oregon, and I would say my favorite government service is long-term planning.
Cool, thanks. Tim Moreland.
Everyone, I'm Tim from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and one of my favorite government services are biking infrastructure.
Great, thank you. Brandon. You're on mute, Brandon.
Sorry, I'm actually dialed in on my phone. Okay, Brandon Kao with Code for Denver, and my favorite service would probably be the post office.
Nice, thanks. Chris Matthews.
Mine would be, I'm with OpenNC and Open Raleigh, and I also work in government. My favorite thing would be libraries, specifically the new escape rooms that we're building in our libraries.
Oh, that's cool. Cool, thanks, Chris. Patrick, you're up next. Patrick? No? Okay, Noel.
Hello! My favorite infrastructure for a New Yorker is complaining about things, so 311 is my favorite infrastructure.
Cool, thanks. That switched my order of folks. Okay, I think we're on Zachary.
So Zach is joining by chat. He says, I live in Fresno, California, no brigade yet, and my favorite local government service is our recent participatory budgeting system that allowed residents to choose where a portion of the tax funds go.
That's really great. Cool. Michelle, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Michelle. I'm with Code for Denver, and I would have to say the public library as well, especially the new-ish Idea Lab makerspace that is running in the central library.
Perfect, thank you. Hashin, you're up next.
All right, I was trying to get situated here. I just got off the road, but
oh, sorry.
I'm Hashim Teuzi, staff at CFA, and my favorite government service. Laura said it first, trash pickup. So I'm going to go with curbside recycling and electronics recycling.
Awesome, thank you. Neil.
Neil here, Open Oakland. I also sit on the National Advisory Council. Most of them have been mentioned that I came to my mind. So I'm going to choose one that hasn't been mentioned yet, and that is food waste. Oakland now actually composts food wastes, and where I live, we donate to that project. That's my choice.
Awesome, thank you. Ian, you're up next.
Yeah, Ian with Code for Carry, and I spend a lot of time in airplanes, so air traffic control is my favorite government service.
Great. David, you're up next.
Hi, I'm David with Code for Denver, and I like the mail forwarding in the post office. It's pretty good. It's online. It's a pretty good service. It works.
Cool. Thanks. Christopher.
Hi, my name is Christopher Whitaker. I'm the Brigade Program Manager at Code for America, and my favorite government service is our library's bookmobile that parks like 2 blocks that way, and my wife and I and my child walk out there every Friday as our weekly ritual.
Cool, thanks. And I'll go last. My name is Veronica, and my favorite government service is voting. Love voting and being able to participate in our electoral system. Did I miss anybody? No? Okay, perfect. Well, I know that took a little bit a little while, but I'm glad we did it. We definitely have some new faces here, which is great. And it took a long time because there's so many people, which is awesome. I think that we have a high here tonight for a workshop. So that's great. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Noel, who's going to talk a little bit about what BetaNYC has done for their past national days, and let him kick it off.
All right, great. Do I do a screen share on my slides?
Yes, that would be wonderful.
All right, let's see if I know how to do this right. I want this window. Is it showing full screen?
I think if you give it a second, it will. It's showing kind of split up.
How about now? Do you see two screens or one?
Two.
My internet isn't always, we had a vandalism in the neighborhood.
Now we see one, but it looks a little squished.
A little?
Yeah, it's pretty squished. I can put it up on my screen if you like. I think we lost you. Okay, let's see. Hey everyone, sorry, I'm just trying to switch this out. I think we lost Noel for a second. Okay, let's see whether it will work. Yeah, he just said he's having technical difficulties and has to restart. Hey Jason, I saw you come in. Are you ready to present?
Yes. Would you like me to share some slides?
That would be awesome. Thanks. If you try screen sharing, let's see if we can see your screen.
All right, one moment.
Thank you.
I'm going to find the right screen and then we'll be ready.
Awesome.
Did that work?
Yes, that worked.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks for having me tonight. Sorry I'm a little late, but I was actually running a planning meeting for our event. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is an event series that we've created here from the Open Raleigh Brigade called NC Open Pass. And let's see, here we go. So, we started about 7 years ago doing one event called City Camp. It was called City Camp Raleigh, and then we evolved to be City Camp NC. And eventually we found, through things like International Day of Open Data, the National Day of Civic Hacking, and all these other kind of nationwide and international type things that were happening, that we could actually create an event series for the entire year. So essentially, NC Open Pass is a group of events that we've coupled together, and that really kind of highlights what's happening in the civic tech community. And that includes government, startups, academia, and so forth. And if anyone's done any traveling and been to some of the larger cities in the U.S., they have these touristy things called, City Pass, and you can basically get access to a bunch of different venues and sightseeing things for a lower price, so to speak. So we kind of took that concept and just kind of called our event series NC Open Pass, and gives you access to all these events. And you can actually pay for, right now our early bird is open, $45, I think, to get to all of our events. Even we even group the free events as part of that, just to kind of keep the promotional marketing piece together. This is what our series looks like, with some moving dates around National Day. We've adjusted for that accordingly. But what I'm going to talk about tonight, for very briefly, and then answer questions, is the Civic Camp part, because that's our biggest event. We would love that to coincide with National Day. It's not going to work this year. So to speak to that briefly, the brigades in North Carolina are going to be hosting some sort of virtual workshop or hackathon type thing, so we can work on a common project that we're all working on statewide. So that's what we're going to plan for that. I just wanted to share a typical schedule of our city camp, which is, we've rebranded it as Civic Camp for several reasons. One, we want to be more inclusive, and two, we found that we've got a really great partnership with our county government. So we didn't want them to feel left out. And so, it's not just the city, it's all layers of government that we are trying to impact, city, county, and state. So a typical event, basically, we would have a kickoff, open to the public type thing, where we do lightning talks. And we do that after hours, so people can, after work, come, grab some food, grab a beverage, and enjoy kind of some really quick updates. I think last year we had 12 different speakers doing our lightning talks, and it's just really quick, 5 minutes, from a variety of disciplines, and a very diverse group of people giving those talks. Friday is the big day for us. We used to do City Camp all on the weekend, and we found that for us, it was really hard to get government folks to show up on the weekend. So if we found that through trial and error, that if we have it on Friday, it's a lot easier for government folks to talk to their boss and say, hey, I'm going to go do this City Camp thing, and a lot easier for them to get permission to go. And it's kind of during work hours, and it's kind of seen as training and so forth. So we provide a little, we kind of split the day in half. We have structured content where we bring in keynotes. We'll usually do some sort of panel session to bring in some public and private folks together. And then in the afternoon, we'll do a complete unconference. So we let folks come up and pitch things before lunch, and then we organize the rest of the afternoon based on who's there and who wants to talk about what. Over the years, was there a question? Or just some interference? Okay. And then over the years, as we've gotten our schedule down and really haven't had to spend too much time talking about that, we've added certain things. So last year we added a networking social happy hour, and we try to find different partnerships within our community. Google Fiber approached us and said, hey, we want to do something, what do you think? And they have an amazing space. So we just did some networking over there. And then, that is not my toilet. So anyway, we'll keep going. Unless they're saying that my ideas are down the drain. Okay. So, and then we just had some additional networking. If you do things like this where you're moving locations, try to keep in mind, keep them close by, because we found once people get in their car, they're out, they're going home. So unless they're really into it. And then the Saturday portion of our event takes place, is really focused on our hackathon. So in the past, we've done a couple different things. We've had kind of a traditional hackathon for our brigades where people can come in and work on brigade projects. We've had to kind of open up, hey, I want to come pitch an idea and add people to my team. And then we've also done in the past, we've partnered with Girl Develop It, and they've come in and done some training sessions. So we've had an intro to HTML and CSS class, as well as an intro to Python class as part of that event. And a lot of times what we found is a lot of times it's their first hackathon that people are going to. So we're able to bring in some new folks and have a really great partnership. And then as we've modified things over the years, our hackathon really acts as our kickoff to our Datapalooza event, which is our open data competition. What we've structured there is, as you saw from the previous slide, Civic Camp is in September, and then Datapalooza is in November. So we have a good 7 to 8 week runway where people can actually work on their projects because we want to help them be sustainable. And I think the days of the 24-hour hackathon are slowly on the decline just because we just see things just fall into a black hole after the event. So we want to nurture the teams that are working through this and really create some sustainable civic tech in our area. So that's all I prepared from a presentation standpoint. I'll throw the links in here and just mention that we do have a GitHub IO site up right now, but we are actually working. You can see our work in progress, and we're actually migrating 3 to 4 different websites together. So we're going to finish that up in hopefully 2 weeks or so. So anyway, I'm happy to take questions. And how do I do that, Veronica?
Awesome, thanks, Jason. I think that folks can just unmute themselves if they have a question, or if you want to put your question in the chat, either way is fine. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, actually, I really like that idea about that you guys have like a hackathon, and then the Datapalooza is essentially you give time, like weeks, for people to work on their projects. How long do you think? Like, have you I guess, tested it out multiple years? Like, how long do you think that we should give if we're also interested in doing that?
Yeah, we've done this for probably about 3 years or so. So 2 years we actually partnered. There was a separate group of people doing the Datapalooza events. And then we realized that there was some overlap in a lot of the planners. So we decided just to merge planning teams, and we did that. We did it as a partnership 2 years ago, and then we actually did the complete merge of our planning teams last year. And through that process, we've tried this out. Last year, we tried something really interesting that I thought was a great experiment. We made some good progress. We actually partnered with our county government, and we reviewed our county commissioner has like a list of like 75 different goals for the whole county. We reviewed that list with the Wake County IT team and our leadership team, and we got it down to about 10 to 12 or so topics. And then we surveyed our brigade community and asked them what resonated with them. And we came back with kind of 3 topic areas. And the idea was, so for example, we had an economic development area, we had a parks and rec area, and a health and human services area. The goal was to try to find someone within county government who that's their job, and supplement their quote job with a group of volunteers that can help them make progress on their work. So we did see that work a little bit with the Parks and Rec team, and we made a little bit of progress there. But I wanted to throw that out there as an idea, so it's maybe not just community members, but you could also do it with in partnership with your government partners. And I think we've seen some good success. In fact, last year, the winning team for the Datapalooza competition was something called something just happened. Something called Are We Represented? And they're actually still meeting, and they just had a group of folks meet at our. We just had an event 2 weeks ago, Civic Action Day or Community Action Day. Does that answer the person's question?
Yeah, I got that. And then I had one more question about the the time you guys gave for people to work on between the hackathons. Like, what? I mean, you said it was like a couple weeks, but what is a good time to give people to work on their projects outside of hackathons so that they could be productive, and also it's not too long to where people lose interest, and by the time the next hackathon shows up, their projects are essentially stopped.
Yeah, we thought just for this that 7 to 8 weeks was a good time frame. And to be completely honest, I totally borrowed this format from Purdue University. They have an event series called Iron Hacks. And so you can check that out. They've got some really good stuff. What we do, we've done a couple of different techniques where we have checkpoints with the teams. And so we have, it's not listed in this schedule, but around about a month later and at the end of October, we have a series of pitches where teams come in to do their pitch, and then we actually select the 3 finalists to go to the finale, which is in November.
Okay, thanks.
All right, let's keep going. There were a couple of other questions. Nina asked, how many people does it take for you to pull off each and all of these events?
Great question. We have, the way that we're structured, we have 5 committees. We have a sponsorship partnership committee. We have a marketing committee, a logistics committee, a speaker committee, and then an open data committee. We try to have 2 co-chairs for that, or two people lead each of those groups. And then the meeting is had currently we do that once a month, weekly. We do a lot of stuff asynchronously.
The freedom to connect, the freedom to learn, the freedom to innovate, and the freedom to collaborate. And so as FDR articulated 4 freedoms of the 20th century, we articulate 4 freedoms of the 21st century. These are kind of like plus one-ing those original 4 freedoms. And so when we think about our events, we try to use these 4 freedoms as lens, as like a prism or a lens for those different events. So we think about our mission, we think about these 4 freedoms, and then we try to think about how they all cross-cut. So most of our event goals are very much focused on the fact that we need to make room for everybody. If we're doing this event on a weekend, we need to offer childcare. Very much +1 of what Jason said about government workers having a hard time working on the weekend, and it's easier for them to do events on Saturday, or excuse me, on Friday. And we have found, we've experimented on this. We're always exploring for opportunities that are very inclusive. So even if we do a hack event where there's some type of application process, we'll make sure that there's some type of workshop that is open to the general public. One thing that I heard from Jason is that it's very time intensive from an organ. Can someone mute? There's somebody who's not muted. Things are very time intensive. And so one thing that we've worked on successively is we want to come up with a series of Google Docs that are always structured and that we're going to be referring back to, and we're essentially just growing our institutional practice. And kind of the next series of parts is that we always want to deepen our relationship with government, or we want to focus on a new government. We want to have some iconic branding. This is New York City. This is the media capital of New York City, or maybe, or excuse me, of America, or at least the East Coast. So we want to have something that's iconic and that people feel a physical relationship to within our events. And then we also have understood that it takes 3 to 4 months to set up just a one-day event. And then we want to actually do a thorough debrief with our event partners, particularly our government partners. So we budget about a month or 2 months for stories or following up with our government partners to make sure that we hear from them what worked and what didn't work, and that we're more or less building this continuous agile process in our events partnerships. And ultimately, we're trying to have fun. And so our achievements is that we've been able to come up with an organizer toolkit, and we have budget templates here in New York City. You know, our events are big events. National Day of Civic Hacking and what was formerly known as Code Across, now also known as Open Data Day, roughly run us $30,000. And I know that that's a big budget, but we're looking to have 200 to 300 people at our different events. We also have organizational timelines, so we know exactly when do we need to be contacting certain people and who are those people that we need to be contacting. For every event, we try to make a targeted goal of $5,000 to $10,000 in profit, and that's normally come through sponsorships in one way, form or another, one way, shape or another. And then we're reinforcing our relationships, and ultimately, this is platforms for community leadership. So we're always looking for opportunities to build up new organizations, new projects, and new individuals. BetaNYC as an organization itself is able to recruit 1 or 2 stellar individuals to kind of be brought into the leadership umbrella from every single event, and this has helped us grow our core team. And so we have kind of like this structured, right now templated NYC School of Data, which we use, which is the Open Data Day, which is what we use as one place for iteration. And then we've been looking at the National Day of Civic Hacking as kind of like the polar opposite as a way to focus things on. So School of Data, Open Data Day in the spring is the big tent, and then the National Day of Civic Hacking is the focused event. And we've experimented on all these different models, and I'll just talk briefly about them. I want to talk about how we more or less use National Day of Civic Hacking to build a kind of a profit or financial pipeline. So in 2015, we were, as Jason was talking about, you know, we were a community group. We realized that we found an opportunity to engage with others. In 2015, there was a very large national conference called State of the Map that was being hosted in New York City on what would be National Day of Civic Hacking. Additionally, we were approached by a Fortune 100 company to host a volunteer day. And so it didn't make any sense for us to host our own kind of large scale event, you know, even if it was 50 to 100 people. It was just like, this doesn't make any sense because there were a number of factors that were overlapping. The other thing is that we had our city's Parks Department and the GIS team were developing a framework to go out and to count all of the street trees. So we framed this whole opportunity around making data, because people would have to go around and essentially hug a tree and then use a series of instruments to measure where a tree is on the sidewalk. And so we essentially harnessed the powers that existed and made a profitable day. I think we ended up making like $2,000 from an event that only had 27 participants. But from this day, we knew that on the kind of like taking the momentum out of this day is that we wanted to deepen a relationship with the Parks Department, and we wanted to deepen a relationship with the city GIS department. Because of this particular program was crowdsourcing data, we wanted to do some type of event moving forward. So in the year, the following year, we were able to work with the Parks Department. They actually came to us and they said, hey, you know, we saw that you were able to make a small scale event. How can you partner with us to leverage your community to do a much larger event? So we were able to do more or less a hackathon, but we called it a data jam because it was focused on the data and not necessarily on any particular type of product. And we were paid by the Parks Department $20,000 to host this event. And we were able to still use our templated framework that we would have used for School of Data, to say that we wanted to identify community partners, we wanted to identify community sponsors, and we wrote it into our contract that said that we were going to do this large-scale event and that we would be bringing in money to more or less pay for this event, and that we would be able to keep the profits, and that the city would also pay for this event and that they would be our partner. So we were able to double down on our relationship with the Parks Department and the mayor's office. We actually were, because we were paid, we were brought into a much more intimate level of conversations to think about the agency challenges and to think about how data is used within the different agency departments, and then ultimately think about the data structure. And so our participation heavily influenced how the city developed a workflow to release open data. And ultimately, because this was a city agency that was partnering with us, we're able to architect a different type of hacking event that wasn't necessarily focused around apps, but more focused around data insights. And then we're able to capture this brand called Data Jams, and have been able to successfully use Data Jams as another product that we bring to organizations or agencies as a way for either revenue opportunity or ideation. And then last year for National Day of Civic Hacking, we were like, well, we're just in a wash of cash, not really, but we had enough profit that we realized that we could hire an organizer. So we were gonna try to one-up ourselves because, you know, we think that we can always do that, and the reality is that we can't, but we thought that we could. So we had this grandiose idea of doing a data jam with 5 different challenges that they themselves had 5 different like agency contacts. We had around 3 different classes that were running, or 2 classes that were running. We had a goal of having 3 classes. We wanted to generate the same amount of revenue, but we actually weren't able to. But what we were able to come out of this event was some very iconic branding that people have loved, which has further made our kind of like the brand of BetaNYC and the brand of our types of events more desirable. And we're now getting more agencies coming to us and saying, can you help us organize, and we'll pay you to organize different types of events. And we've been able to deepen our relationship, not only with government, but also with non-governmental organizations, which has then helped us organize School of Data, which is that big tent spring event. And so this is me just kind of running through this. Our event outcomes have been, we've been able to build solidarity with local organizations. Most importantly, we've been able to build trust within those organizations and governmental officials. We've been able to perfect our internal operations. We've been able to add to our leadership team, which is a very important thing when you're a volunteer-based organization. And ultimately, we've been able to build demand for our capabilities, which means that we're actually driving demand for our product as community organizers. And then we have a flexible event template that works for paid and unpaid events. And lastly, we've had fun. So hopefully I didn't run over too much time, and I'm hope that we can get some questions.
Awesome, thank you, Noel. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask.
Could I get the link for the slides?
Yeah, let me, and I'm so sorry that somebody else has encroached on our time. I put it into the group's chat. I also put it into the brigade channel for those of you who are around.
No, I'll add that, put this in chat, but just to give it some color. Yeah, there's always a lot of energy right after the event. And so I love how you've kind of planned in the kind of the post interest and follow-ups. I think that's just a great thing to highlight here because that's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah, don't underestimate your debrief period. It's really important. We discovered this early on. It's really important to give time to the relationships that you're developing in these different events, because the community is great. And you do want to survey your community, and you want to engage with the community to find out whether or not they've had a great time. What were the things that worked for them? What are the things that didn't work for them? But make sure that you also invest, at least a minimum of 6 weeks to be engaging with your event partners, to find out what worked for them. If you can do a telephone call, if you can do an in-person meeting, great. If you can do a telephone call, take that. Lastly, if you can do with an email or a structured survey document, but really spend time with your event partners, because they will be coming back to you. They will be the individuals who will be recommending your organization to other individuals, and hopefully turning these types of events into a product opportunity. I see that Nina's asking. Our event template is a very nasty and crude Google spreadsheet with a number of tabs in it. And it's very much focused on budget. So we see the things that we've purchased for different events, and more or less what we can recycle that's in one of the organizer's closets. I could show you there's an orange box up there, and this whole closet right back here is dedicated to more or less BetaNYC, like signs, laminators, walkie-talkies. So the one sheet is dedicated to the budget, which is food, swag, the things that we need to pay for, name tags, etc. We do buy Facebook ads. We do buy, we've been buying some, primarily just Facebook ads, just to kind of like get elevation and get people to register. So budget, timeline of the project, the people that we're contacting, that we want to be contacting, media contacts, governmental contacts, and then the schedule, the day's schedule, and those are the 4 things.
Cool. Any last questions?
No, can you talk a little bit about fundraising? Like what are some maybe 3 things that everyone should be thinking about for successful fundraising?
It's not easy. It's a pain in the ass. You have to overcome a lot of, well, at least if you know me, you would not believe the words that I'm about to say, but it's, you have to step out of your comfort zone. Like, believe it or not, like asking people for money is a very frustrating and uncomfortable experience. At least it is for me. Really, you just have to ask that. You just have to, you have to make a list of people and be humble. Not be like, hey, I want $20,000 from you because I know that you have it. But it's just, like, I think that I have an opportunity for you to partner with this particular event. Here, let me help you connect the dots. Some of our funders, like we're fortunate enough to have Microsoft now cities sponsor BetaNYC in general. They have an annual budget, and we kind of talk to them at the beginning of the year. Hey, we're looking to do 1 or 2 events throughout the year. So while you give us, X number of funds for the year, please budget in, these 2 events at what you've done for the last 2 years. And then, we've been able to market God, I hate saying this knowing that this video is going to be recorded, but we essentially upsell sponsorship opportunities. So while our childcare costs X, we then double the value of our childcare, our cost of childcare, and bring that in. And so then we're able to essentially sell that as a fundraising opportunity. And then we do the same thing with our food. So we're always looking at the value, the bottom line of how much it's going to cost us, and then try to tack on, a little bit of profit to that. And it's really just thinking through, okay, who can give us money? Like, who can we tie to the event's mission, the event's objectives? I'm not sure if that came out coherently enough, but more or less, think about the mission of the event, think about organizations that are within your community that tie to that. Try to upsell them. Don't tell them that you're upselling them first and foremost, but now that this video is out there, they will know. Over budget for sponsorships, and also just like have a continuous conversation with your sponsors, because they do annual planning, and making sure that they know that you're going to be doing an event in the future is good for their marketing bottom line. Jason, what advice do you have for individuals doing sponsorships?
I might default to Chris because he does all the hard work on that. But I would just add to that, we have a prospectus that's prepared in advance, so it's ready to go at the beginning of the year that we can just hand them, so they can see what levels are available. And then I might not use the word upsell, but we try to upgrade our sponsors each year to say, hey, if they donated $1,000 this year, can we get them to the next level and see if that's a win-win for our partnership. And I would add, know whoever you're asking to help sponsor, know what their budget cycle is. So if you're going to someone in government, you got to know, is their budget cycle July to June? Or if you're going to a corporation, is it, are they January to December? For example, my organization, our fiscal year actually starts in March. So you've got to know the cycles.
Yeah, I will say that getting money out of government is pretty much like trying to get water out of a stone. Good luck, but it does happen every once in a while.
And if you do try for government, look for the economic and development opportunities, because they've got a little bit more wiggle room in their budget, and we're able to get a good amount of money out of that bucket of our local government.
Thanks, Jason, and thanks, Noel. We just have a few minutes here left here, and I'd like to have a chance for Laura to say a few words about what you do at Code for Durham. So if you have any more questions for Noel and Jason, please put them into the chat. And Laura, I'll let you go ahead and get started. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I joined the call to participate, and then I was upgraded to be a panelist. So I don't have slides or anything like that, but I'll just give you a few thoughts. Last year, we didn't know what when National Day of Civic Hacking was, and sometime during the year we know that we hold an event in Durham. So we decided to hold an event, and we called it Civic Spark Day, not to suggest taking away from branding of National Day of Civic Hacking, but Civic Spark Day was a good event for us. It was a half-day event. We're really project heavy brigade, and don't do nearly the big events that Raleigh and New York do. So for us, like a half day on Saturday was really manageable, and I think probably helped bring a few more people out than a full day, full Saturday or a full weekend. Civic Spark Day, people were a little bit attracted to the name, or at least didn't take quite as much explanation as civic hacking does. And one of the other things that was successful about that event was we had a panel, and our open data manager at the time had a panel conversation with Eric Jackson from Code for Asheville. We have a Bloomberg innovation team, so a design person from that team, and then Noel from the Sunlight Foundation. I always get Sunlight and Sunshine mixed up, and they're very different organizations. Sunlight Foundation. And that was, I think, a really well-received conversation during the event. So just an idea that maybe it doesn't all have to be about creating new projects. The next thing I'll say is in my conversations with South Region Brigades, I kind of turn my nose up, or tend to turn my nose up at hacking. So I'm like, what can you accomplish in a day? You know, like I work in government and they're really big and tractable problems. What can you accomplish in a day? But the one comment that's really turned my view around on that was talking with Jeff from Houston about the efforts they pulled together after Harvey. And he talked about the hackathons that they've had in Houston over the years were like practice for them. When Harvey came, they were able to really pull together, and they were used to working with each other in these really tight circumstances and having to really pull something together in a day or a weekend, which thinking of it like that was really helpful instead of just like this one weekend where we're trying to do something and have pizza. But the idea that it's a practice for times when we're really needed, or skills are really needed in the community. Also, I was going to say around hacking, you don't do a weekend thing or a day thing. I do really like the Code for Philly Launchpad model, which is similar to what Raleigh does, the idea of having like kind of a kickoff event and then a month or two to really foster ideas. I was part of the Are We Represented project, and we came up with the idea one weekend, and then we had a month or two to kind of remotely work on it and then pitch it back instead of trying to come up with something on a weekend. And then the last thing I'll say is I have two dreams for the National Day of Civic Hacking. So maybe you guys will help me make them happen, or we'll see. The first one is the thought of National Day of Civic Hacking is a great opportunity for a photo op with your city council or county commissioners or something like that. Maybe they're not going to come to your event on Saturday, but if you go to City Hall on their Monday night council meeting or Friday around lunchtime and have like a photo op and a cake cutting ceremony, and you have your brigade with your city manager or your city council, even if they don't come to that event, if that picture gets in the newspaper or on your social media, I think it can highlight what the city is or is not doing in open data, and just kind of gets the conversation started and helps you to promote your event. So that's something I've talked about with Christopher. So maybe we can help develop tools. If that's something you're interested in, please let me know. But again, just like Friday, who's going to say no to cake and an opportunity to positively interact with residents around cake and civic hacking. The other thing I'll say is when I first heard of civic hacking, I'm not a computer techie, I'm not a coder person. But hacking, I think of as, if you're familiar with the idea of tactical urbanism, of like hack your life, just hack like the things that make it easier, not necessarily that are backed up by coding and programming. So my second dream in relation to National Day of Civic Hacking is to, it kind of sounds a little bit like some of the things Noel was talking about, but the idea that if we're working on a project, for example, that's mapping some of the most dangerous intersections for bicyclists in Durham, maybe that Saturday we work with the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee to go out and put up cones around that intersection. Or we're doing something where it's actually on the ground, that residents are coming and like hacking something that's actually happening in their life. Yes, tactical urbanism, check out the link. But that could be pop-up shops in areas where we've noticed there's less foot traffic, and fewer businesses, or things like that, that through our civic hacking projects, we could help to identify. And then on a day like that, Saturday or that weekend, you have the residents coming in and actually kind of doing things on the ground. So those are my 2 dreams and a few of my thoughts. Thanks.
Thanks, Laura. That was great. We are approaching time in just a few seconds. So what I'd like to do is, if you have any further questions, if everyone can pay attention to the brigade channel and we can follow up on there. Also, it may be difficult to piece together a video for this workshop. So if you have anything that you can share, please send it over to anyone on the network team or to myself so that we can include it in a post about this workshop, because we want to be able to share this knowledge around the network. And there were a number of people that had let us know they couldn't make it this evening, but really wanted to learn from this workshop. So if you have anything to share, please send it over. Thank you so much for dealing with all of the difficulties this evening. And we really appreciate your flexibility, and especially to the presenters today who really made it through really great. So thanks so much. Let us know if you have any questions. Yes, persevere is right. And we will see you very soon.